Woo! It's puppy time. You can't see the puppy, y'all, but
you can hear her.
Yeah, listen to that.
Oh,
welcome back to the podcast, everybody. It's time to reveal the name of the puppy. I had so many different, good names, powerful names. Names with meaning are really important to me. But isn't she just adorable?
Mm-hmm.
Can you say hi to everybody? She's really mad at me right now because I woke her up from her nap so that we could reveal her name.
Oh.
And she's like,
pretty
I want to take a nap. She's about 10 pounds. She's 8 weeks old. I know.
Adorable.
10 pounds.
Look at her. She wants the mic.
Yeah, she's tired.
Puppy podcast.
That was a name speak, actually. So, but all right. I'll let you go play with Jackie. You can go hang out with her.
Oh, we don't get to pass her around?
No, she's going to go right to her nap spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I named her Bella.
Oh.
And
good name.
That yeah. And
why?
Has a lot of meaning because my daughter who passed away didn't get to see the last Twilight. She literally had that on her calendar. And she didn't really care much for the character Bella, but she liked the guy characters. So I'm thinking that, it's a girl dog, so I can't name her a guy. I can't name her Jacob. No. So Bella. Yeah.
Nice.
That's the meaning behind it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
so it's pretty
nice.
fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, so today we're going to talk about, we have a quarterback who died at the age of 37. We're going to talk about Josh Duggar arrested. Also, some famous YouTubers, they euthanized a dog after their child was bit, sparking backlash from fans. We're going to talk about Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, and how he is going to pardon residents that were charged with breaking COVID-19 protocols. So that's all coming up on today's show. But hanging out with me today, to my right,
Harmony Sage.
Where can we find you, Harmony?
You guys love doing this.
I know,
right?
Yeah.
You can find me right here because I usually will throw out Facebook, but as you guys all know, if you've been loyal listener and follower, I'm banned. So I have about 9 more days. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then to my left,
Martha Makashati on Facebook. And I'm here today. I just came from the Law Enforcement Memorial National Police Officer Week bell ringing that they had at Soldiers Field. So I just came in, literally just flew in from that, and here to show my support for Law Enforcement Memorial Week for our fallen officers and our current officers. Oh my gosh, and I'm getting bit on the toes from a dog. From a dog. Is it Bella?
that is.
Oh
Wow.
my.
I think
my.
we just
she
saw
came-
another side of Martha May.
She came back from her.
Exciting.
So she's in the toe
Wow.
She came back from her
And
nap
she's
spot.
in
Huh?
defeat.
I'm sorry. Oh, there's a little bit of giddiness
Oh.
going on there. Oh wow. Okay.
Very unexpected.
That is
It's
awesome.
gonna be hard to keep a straight face
Should
with
we-
what's going on.
I could make the comment we should have a camera under the table, but
No.
some weeks that might not work.
That's actually really funny, and so my mind's going in so many different places with that, like camera under the table.
Right.
Do you want me to get her?
No, it's okay.
I think she's enjoying it.
No. It's okay.
And moving forward into the future, Martha May gets a puppy.
No. Oh my God, no. Matilda doesn't know. Oh my God, no.
No, yep.
Yeah.
All right, Craig.
And-
Let's hear from Craig.
Yep. Craig Newland. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and right here.
And Martha May, we're gonna have to mute her mic.
TV
for
timeout.
Yeah,
the puppy.
You try getting your toes nipped on.
it is a little. She does have sharp teeth.
Yeah.
That is
Sorry.
hilarious.
I am so
Hey,
sorry.
don't forget to hammer the share button, hammer the like button, hammer out a comment to us. We will read your comments at the end of the podcast. Let's get into our first story before Martha May totally loses it with the puppy at her feet here.
Sharp.
I've got a
Push her away.
bit of a cough today, and my allergies and stuff is just killing me. And so let's talk about a COVID-19 thing, because every cough and sniffle and runny nose is COVID-19 these days, it would seem. But thankfully, minor allergies. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said Thursday that he'll pardon anyone in the state who has been charged for violating COVID-19 safety measures like masking and social distancing. DeSantis made the announcement on Fox News while discussing the case of 2 gym owners who face criminal penalties for refusing to enforce social distancing and mask mandates in their establishment. DeSantis said he would sign a reprieve on Friday that would delay the case against gym owners Mike and Jillian Carnival for 60 days, adding that during that time, a clemency board will meet to issue pardons for them and other Florida residents. I'm going to skip down here where we get a whole bunch of ads on this, but I want to say that the governor's announcement follows his decision last week to immediately suspend all local COVID-19 emergency mandates in the state. DeSantis also said he will be outlawing the mandates beginning July 1st. He said his administration wants people to live freely in the state of Florida and to enjoy themselves. DeSantis also passed legislation in March that waived fines on those who broke COVID-19 mandates. Harmony, what do you think?
Well, I just think, I think it's a positive thing. Again, it's confusing too. We were trying to put all this reinforcements and all that for people. So we weren't, exposing each other, and we were doing this to the businesses and stuff like that. So how much money's been lost? But I think it's a positive thing. The way I'm looking at it is like, let's get back on track. Let's, the summer's here. A lot of things are starting to reopen, and I really would like to see this behind us.
Amen. That's what I got to say. Amen. Finally, I think other governors, Waltz, should take note. I think other governors should take note. Amen. And it is in his power and our president's power to grant pardons. It's part of our constitutional rights. So obviously things happened that probably should not have happened legally wise or against the law wise, whatever people got charged with. So amen, more power to Governor DeSantis right now. That's what I got to say.
I agree. Good on him. A lot of these businesses open because they're trying to stay afloat, and the restrictions just, how many businesses closed because of this, and he's trying to make it right for the ones that were just trying to keep their head above water. So, and has Florida had an outbreak because businesses like this decided to open? No. So.
I think that it should have happened a long time ago, and I know that he's been pushing back. I mean, it talked about March and stuff, pushing back on some of those restrictions that were put in place and mandates and things. I think this shows us, though. So this didn't happen in the pandemic 100 years ago. This didn't happen in World War II, where the governors were, or where the federal government came in and had all these mandates, and the governors took all this executive power, and where the legislature didn't get to vote and all these things. This has never happened in the history of our country. And we did this for 14 months. I'm like, our Constitution's pretty clear on the federal government not having that kind of say and power. So he's getting, obviously, from he's a Republican, of course, as I'm sure everybody listening, watching knows. And so he's getting a lot of pushback from the Democrats and things on this and how dangerous it is. But then what I thought was interesting, our governor Walz just yesterday is basically lifting most of those mandates that were in place. Now, here's what's funny. I have a 21-year-old son, and I was talking to him last night, and I said, what did I tell you when this pandemic hit? Do you remember? And I said, I went through all these things. And what I said well, I'll be interested to see if it's only for 15 days. If it's for 15 days to slow the spread, that's fantastic. Then let's regroup, gather up what we need for science, what we need to evaluate this virus, and then we'll move forward, right? It makes sense. I was on board with it. Well, then it got to 45 days, and then all these other things. And so at that time, and the mask mandates, and so at that time that those things were happening, I said, here's what I predict. I said, they're going to hang on to this power as long as the people allow them to hang on to it. And until then, they're going to do it. They're going to keep these executive orders in place, and state to state will vary. And I said, this is the next thing that's going to happen after they start releasing some of those powers and letting the people go back to normal. People are going to cheer them on and say, yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening, as well as Bella biting feet.
Did she get your toes down?
No, she got
my
Craig.
She got Craig? You did it without the high-pitched giggle like I had, Craig. Oh, my Lord.
Mhm.
And here we are. I see this all over social media. Yeah, thank you. Woo. Wait a minute.
No, thank you. It's about time. Like,
Yes.
let us live our lives.
Yeah.
Don't dictate what we're allowed to do with our businesses
Right.
and the decisions that we want to make. That's my issue. Is it's just an overreach of government, and I understand the reasoning of trying to keep the desk down and protect us. I get all that, and I've heard all that, but they say the science doesn't know. It changed weekly.
Mhm.
And the problem with just following science is they aren't using common sense. Like the gym in Plainview that opened against governor orders, a gym that maybe had a dozen people at most in a
one time.
2,000 square
Time,
foot
yeah.
facility.
Yeah.
You can social distance at that. We've had this conversation
Mhm.
before. Let the business owners determine what they feel is best for their customers. And if the customers don't support their decisions, then they won't walk in the door.
That's right.
Mhm.
Period.
Right.
So right now, going back to Governor DeSantis and Governor Walz, right now, Lisa from Interchange and Albert Lee is charged with felony charges for keeping her restaurant open. Lisa in Lakeville is also charged. Laura Vida over in Western Minnesota. All these three women are charged with criminal charges. I mean, jail time, different things like that, bail, bond, all that for doing what they needed to do for their business, and what that was to keep it open. I would hope Governor Walz would take some notes from Governor DeSantis and try to pardon these people who are having these issues. It's a shot in the dark, but he needs he needs to look at what other governors are doing. Really. All right, I think I got it right.
You have to tighten that up.
Okay.
Right in front, the mic right in front. That's where that's the sweet spot.
Can you hear me now?
Right here.
Can you hear
Right,
me now?
that's the sweet spot.
So
Come on,
anyways, I
we're
don't know if
way
you caught
into
that.
this. You should know how the mics work.
I know. I don't.
But-
Did you catch that? Just because of
Yeah. No,
You
it
know,
was heard. It's just
yeah.
it was a little more quiet. But
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Definitely. So I mean, yeah, it feels like we're doing this over and over again. We're talking about these things too much. And why are we doing that? Well, because they keep telling us they're following the science, and the science in and of itself is supposed to communicate and talk to each other and things like that, and different doctors and all those things, right? Well, they're not even doing that. All these doctors are going this way, and all these doctors are going this way, and instead of coming together and saying, well, this is what I found, what do you think? And I don't know, it just seems like it fell apart in a hurry, and I'm glad that they're starting to put it back together again, personally.
Yeah, the Walz's conference yesterday just blew my mind. That he just said, all right, we're done. Essentially, that's what it appears to me is we're done, except for situations like schools and
Prisons, yeah.
And I was talking to my wife about this last night, and she said, she works at the clinic, and she said the hospitals will probably never remove their mask mandate. And I understand that. I can appreciate that. And, Rochester, we're very unique with the amount of patients we have. And it used to be where you'd see that patient with a mask on, and it's like, oh, they must be in a tough situation. Immune system is depressed. And so we were kind of used to that,
Right.
of seeing people with masks. And to me, it was more of a sympathy for what they were going through.
Right.
So you gave them their space. And I can see, they're kind of petri dishes for things to explode. So I don't have a problem if I walk into a hospital to visit somebody. I don't have a problem wearing a mask because of the situation that you're going into.
Right.
But everything else, just Let's get back to life.
Totally. I completely agree. I'm glad that we're heading that direction for sure.
And the other thing Governor Walz said yesterday, going off on the no mask thing, is that if you're vaccinated, because that was what Fauci and the CDC came out and said, was if you're vaccinated, it's okay now not to wear your mask. So guess what? I'm vaccinated.
Are you vaccinated?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I am. Wait, don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah. So Bill Maher, he's got COVID.
Oh.
Really?
He's vaccinated fully.
Oh. So do a lot of other people I know.
And they've never said that it prevents it. It's supposed to minimize your effect.
Right.
Right. It's not
Well,
a.
that's
So,
not a
so,
vaccine,
right.
that's-
So the point is they don't know.
Or they're only sharing what they want us to know.
And show, I don't know, I say show us the science because the literal science has been done and it shows the masks don't work. So let's get
Just
let's
this
get to
past
it. Let's get to
weekend, the churches won the lawsuit against Governor Walz to be open. So the timing of Governor Walz's, didn't he just say a week or two ago that he was going to wait till July or different things like that, July
Yeah.
4th,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden, like you said, the surprise of this presser yesterday. I mean, I'm getting text galore. Is it really going to happen tomorrow? Is it really going to be official that we don't have to wear masks? And it's like, what? I didn't even know, that this just kind of came out of nowhere, especially with this investigation with Fauci too. So
And the CDC came out and said it. So
Right.
if he didn't follow the CDC, he would be shooting himself in the foot because
Right.
that's what he's followed. Is
Well,
the CDC.
and DeSantis is suing the CDC too for
Right.
some things, but I don't have that pulled up.
But St.
so we
Paul and
won't talk
Minneapolis
about
now,
it.
their mayors have come out and said they are going to enforce the mask
Masks,
mandate.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what does that tell you? To me, that tells me that they're authoritarians, and everybody is saying masks really don't need them, and now they come out and say no, you got to wear them.
So do we have a prediction for Rochester? I didn't want to even jinx that, but
I
do
think
have
we
a
should
prediction for
wait on
Rochester?
that and see what next week brings.
Okay.
we have
That'd be a good story next week.
Yeah, I don't. This isn't a prediction show,
Okay.
but I mean,
Shoot, I was going to make a prediction.
I know.
we can-
Craig, you and I
we
bet.
can-
Let's
we can-
bet.
we
No,
can look
shoot,
at-
we
we can
can
look
bet
at
the
the
same way.
let's slide into this next story. You know what? Let's go to the quarterback story here. There's a quarterback out of Colt Brennan, former star quarterback at the University of Hawaii, dies at age 37. Former standout college quarterback Colt Brennan died this week in a California hospital, his family confirmed to CNN. He had been in long-term rehab facility. Brennan's sister, Carrera Shea, told CNN on Tuesday. Unfortunately, he relapsed. Brennan, 37, was pronounced dead at Hodge Hospital in Newport Beach, according to the Orange County coroner. The Costa Mesa Police Department told CNN that Brennan was taken to the hospital due to an overdose. After a shaky beginning to his college football career, Brennan transferred to the University of Hawaii in 2005, where he was the starting quarterback for 3 seasons. Brennan set the NCAA record for touchdown passes in a single season with 58 in 2006. And Bella and Jackie are playing in the background. That record was eclipsed by LSU's Joe Burrow in the 2019 season. Despite being a Heisman Trophy candidate in his junior year, Brennan opted to stay at Hawaii for his final year of eligibility. Anyway, interesting story here. And I'm the one that brought this one to the table because it talks about he had some surgery, at hip surgery, hamstring. We have dog problems. Caught-
Hopefully not
Dog
caught
updates.
on cords.
we have, yeah,
Puppy problems.
cutting the cords. And I thought she would go back and take a nap. That's what I get for waking her up, huh? And
Don't
introducing
wake
her
a
to
sleeping
everybody.
baby.
Puppy problems.
So anyway, yeah. So he had those issues, and it seemed like that was a downfall to his professional career. And then he relapsed, had drug problems and things like that. And I brought this up because as a society, I think that a light has been shown on how bad we pressure these athletes and these singers and these actors and how we put them up on a pedestal and
Yeah.
things like that, and we don't view them as normal people, and then all the spotlight, and then they start reading these negative articles and stuff about themselves, and he's a loser and whatever else they might have done back then and things. So we're all watching the puppies play.
You'd have to have
In
a
the
puppy
corner.
cam.
Do you have a puppy
Yeah.
cam? Yeah.
We should get a puppy
That
cam.
would
That would be
be
pretty
Yeah.
good.
We'd have lots of viewers watching the puppy cam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna
Oh,
knock a
there's
camera
Jackie.
over probably.
Yep.
Instigator.
Anyway, and so you get all that pressure put on them, and then they have human problems, and it seems like this is a normal thing that they go to is drugs, alcohol, and it's a really sad thing. And whose fault is that? Is that their fault?
And they have the
Ultimately,
resources to do it.
Right.
Right.
But what ultimately it's, yes, I agree. But what should we do as a society? Why are we putting that kind of pressure on? Why do we have why do we allow this? This has never been, this kind of pressure on people has never happened in history.
Well, I definitely feel like sports, especially, there's that pressure to perform, and your body takes, I'm always thinking of like football. Your body takes such a beating, and your brain and all that. And, again, and, what are you expected to do when you get injured? You're expected to, heal yourself very quickly because, you're being paid millions of dollars to do exactly that. And then if, for any reason your performance goes down, so does the popularity and the stardom and the money. And I just think mental illness, those mental health issues start to kick in a little bit, anxiety, depression. I just think it's on a whole nother level that maybe, most of us regular folk wouldn't know or understand.
Mm-hmm.
And the drugs and alcohol, how they're using it as a coping mechanism, literally to cope and deal with different things compared to life. How much have we as a society enabled that as well?
Yeah.
Mm.
That's what I mean. It made me really, I was like, my heart just was heavy when I read that. 37 years old. That's 9 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And I
So much life yet to live.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he was on top of the world. He had contracts, and he had his dream was in his hands.
Right.
So
You
this
just
happened a
couldn't
week
handle
ago.
it.
This happened, a couple days ago?
A couple days ago.
A couple days ago. So Craig, you and I and also have talked about how now it's up to 23, but 23 veterans commit suicide every day. That's the average. And even more and more now with the effects of war in Afghanistan and Iraq here recently and different things like that. What are these young and old military people doing for coping mechanisms? Okay, so, we're asking ourselves as society, what are we doing to inhibit or to promote drugs and alcohol as a coping mechanism in sports? But then what are we doing to, be by the side of these military people when they come back and they're dealing with all these things after war?
Well, I think that's really what my point is that we have to not say they're military people. We have to not say they're sports people. We have to not say they're actors. We have to not say they're singers. We have to say,
They're human.
they're human.
They're people.
I had the opportunity for about 2.5 minutes to talk to an actor the other day, on an airplane. And I talked to him like he was another guy.
Probably
And he
appreciated
is
that.
right. And that's my point, I guess. I think we just as a society have put so much pressure on them. Now I know that that's going to happen and they make that choice to go into it and things like that. But I guess, I don't know. And that's not something I'm going to fix for sure. But I was just so heavy in thinking that how much pressure he had on him at that time. And then all of a sudden, as I'm reading the story, I'm like, oh, he had hip surgery, he had hamstring injuries. He had these issues. And then he wasn't able to, the Canadian Football League. And that's kind of like his dreams were squashed, and then that didn't work out. And so that kind of pressure was put on, he put on himself, but that was never taken off by society.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
And all these years later, he just couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
And it's just so heart-wrenching to see that everywhere.
Mhm.
We need to not look at people other than who they are right at that moment. That's really ultimately my point. We put too many freaking labels on everything.
Yeah.
It's dividing everything. I mean,
And
he's a
it's-
loser because he didn't, get into the NFL or he's there for a year or whatever. But
Or what bothers me or frustrates me at times is this what he's going to be remembered for?
yeah, I know.
And I'm sure he's thought
Mhm.
about that too. I mean, like goodness, that he had so many accomplishments and did so much in his 37 years, and this is the article we get.
Yep.
So we all, I think, desire to have this legacy of some sort of going out and whatever. I definitely don't think that is so for him. There's so many questions, right? We don't know who his supporting role, who were playing the supporting roles. Was he putting all this pressure mostly on himself? I always say that we're our own worst critic, right? I play 3 roles. I'm a cheerleader, I'm my own bully, I'm my own therapist, all that. I would imagine that again, all that pressure to perform, and then who knows again who's on his family. A lot of these people that go into sports, they've been doing it since they were little kids.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have family members that live vicariously through their children, so we don't, again, those are the things that I would be curious about.
And it comes down to, and this is an issue with so many facets of life, is the mental health.
Yeah.
And we focus on, I think our focus should be adjusted, mental health and professional athletes, just across the board. It seems to come up in every facet of our life, but yet nothing really seems to be happening. Yes, we're getting some more facilities opened up, but I think there's that stigma with there's something wrong with me, and I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
embarrass myself to go see a counselor or whatever it would be. So
I love
I don't know what the
counselors.
answer is, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've got some friends that are struggling in their relationship, and it's they've finally gone to a counselor, and it's one of them needed to hear what they needed to hear from a
Non-judgmental.
non-judgmental third party to
Mhm.
say, you need to get your stuff together. Don't be critiquing the other part of this relationship without looking back at yourself, and hopefully that counseling is going to help these two to keep their marriage together.
Amen.
But that party wouldn't listen to the other side, and they needed to hear that from somebody that was
Yeah, we
on
get
the side.
we totally get into our own confirmation bias. We're continually confirming what we want to believe and what we want to see,
Mhm.
and that's our bias. We all have bias,
Right.
and if we don't recognize our bias, if we don't recognize, okay, let me back up and say that a little differently. If we don't recognize that we have bias and have the potential for bias, we will never see that we actually do have bias and what that is.
Mhm.
No matter how much Harmony tells me, Matt, blah, 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 right? If I don't understand that I have a bias, nobody will ever be able to tell me
Mhm.
that my bias is this,
Right.
right? And we often think that, oh, I'm not biased. I don't have a bias against Pepsi or Coke or whatever. And that's just not true.
Mm.
I grew up with Pepsi, RC and Pepsi.
So interesting,
right?
Yeah, people say with pizza, like I grew up with Domino's, and someone will say they grew up with Pizza Hut. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do they eat? What's their go-to pizza?
Yeah.
That is their bias. And you can break it down. I actually did a video and it went like nuts. I think it had tens of thousands of views on confirmation bias. And it was literally like Pepsi versus Coke, just to be funny. And it's so true because we do have that, what we grow up with. And if we don't recognize it, we think that Coke is the best. We think that Pepsi is the best. And
Mhm.
and we have to understand that that's in our DNA. Bias is in our DNA. Not necessarily, I'm saying like a negative bias, but just, I'm going to use X brand TVs in my house. And Martha May is going to use the other brand.
Mhm.
That's just the way we are.
And they hope you're like that, right? Coca-Cola and Sony hopes that they bank on that.
Yeah. Well, they
Yeah.
push it and things. But if we don't recognize that we have that, we will never be able to communicate with the other side.
Right.
It'll always be you versus me and things. Always, if we don't recognize that we have a particular bias towards something.
Yeah. And I was just going to say quickly, going back, self-awareness is amazing. And I think we need to do a lot of rewiring of the brain. Oftentimes when we're trying to get healthy, we think that there's a pill for that. There's a quick fix. And sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes we need to maybe change our diet. Maybe we need to exercise. Maybe we need to meditate. Maybe going for a walk in nature, spending time with Miss Bella over here.
Finding God. Yeah. Finding God.
I have found, just for myself personally, it's definitely taken a rewiring of the brain, of going for a quick fix or something that I think that's going to make me feel better, illegally and legally, to only find out that what does work for me is something that I was fighting so hard against. So, it's be open-minded. Self-awareness is a beautiful thing. You'll discover a lot, good and bad, but that's the whole point of growing. That's the whole point of getting healthy is, you can have plenty of people telling you this or that, being outside observers, but as soon as you realize it and you accept it and you do something about it, I think there's growth there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's something that is, it's hard to swallow, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, mental illness, there's been so much stigma on it. So of course, even nowadays, you think that we'd sort of be like into this, comfortable with it. But I think we're just at the beginnings of it. I've noticed and have felt with friends and things like that, that people are finally just starting to talk about it, feel comfortable about it, admitting it. Like, yeah, but a beautiful thing's coming from that. People are relating, they're resonating, they're realizing you too, you're having this experience as well.
I just had a thought. When I say Arnold Schwarzenegger, what do you think of Harmony?
Oh, I'm going to go there because we just talked about this last week. I go Chris Pratt and Katherine Schwarzenegger. That's
Okay.
his daughter and his son-in-law.
Okay, good. Martha May, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Muscles.
Okay. Craig, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Terminator and Governor.
Yeah. All of those things, father, strong man, governor, actor, strong. They're all a strong representation, isn't it?
Sure.
Because a dad, you think of Arnold as a dad,
Yeah.
and a dad-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a strong thing, right? Muscles, strong, actor, governor, takes strength. What does my shirt say? Shiny. What's the first word? Strong.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do things to be strong, not safe. When I said Arnold Schwarzenegger, nobody said, well, he's very safe.
No. I would feel safe next to him
Yes.
Because he's strong,
because he's strong.
right?
Right.
And not just because of muscle, but because of who he is as a dad, but also muscle and also as a leader, right? He's a strong person. But did he do it on his own? There's pictures of him with people all throughout his life, whether that be lifting weights or whether that be being a dad, whether that be governor and actor. There's people around him. And what are they? They're his spotters, right? And we need that. We need spotters, but we need spotters that make us strong, not make us safe. The spotters are there to make us stronger, not safer.
To push us to our limits.
Yeah.
Push us to our limits. And I think that's one thing. And I've said this about counselors. When I go in, the handful, the small handful of counselors that I've had, when I can sit down one-on-one with them, I'm like, I need you to tell me this, I need you to push me and tell me I'm an a-hole when I'm an a-hole and not, you know what I mean?
Give me the tough
don't
love.
Give me-
Don't
sugarcoat it.
censor
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that helps people to be strong, in my opinion. And so I think that's the thing with mental health for me that I've seen in so many things. There has to be that tipping point where we're keeping somebody safe away from harming themselves, but then we have to push them a little bit to get a little bit stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing that I've noticed is that there's too much of that safe side, right? We need to push a little bit to get that muscle built up.
And when you say that, the word that came to mind was truth. I think, we often sugarcoat things and we don't want to hurt people's feelings. And I know I appreciate truth. I think, a lot of people around me, sometimes I know they appreciate it, but I think I surprise them. I can be very curt. I can be very forthright, but there's kindness in there, there's compassion, but I think that people need to be speaking the truth more. And and again, I don't want that to be misunderstood. You can speak your truth or speak the truth and be kind about it. Oftentimes people think that, when somebody is doing that, they're being rude, but sometimes we have to take a look at ourselves and be like, are we being defensive? Are we not acknowledging something?
Right. And personality styles. I mean, my personality style is different than other people that I know or work with. That's what makes us all individually different. If I were to conform to everyone that I know, then I would be just like them. I mean, what makes Harmony different? What makes Matt different? What makes
My hair.
Craig different? Your hair, yes, compared to my hair, yeah. So you know what I mean? That's why we're all individually different. Going back to the personality, and everything, I can be accused of being, abrasive and abrupt and outgoing, and sometimes called the B word and different things like that. And other times people are like,
Beautiful.
"Oh my god,
You're called beautiful often, I bet.
thank you, Matt." That too, but sometimes it starts with a BI. But you know what I mean? And you look at yourself and go, is that who I am? Is that, would I have done it any different? Would I have talked any different? The brassiness. It's what's made Martha May, really. It's what's made Martha May, and that's why I am different too.
Yeah, and we have to embrace that, and like Harmony said, with kindness, right? We have to embrace our brashness and our a-holeness, as I call it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can definitely be an a-hole for sure. But I
And
might
that's
give
being
you
self-aware.
right, exactly. But I might also miss it sometimes, right?
So it's good to have
So
those
it's good to
friends
have, yes,
to
it's
call
good to
you
have
out.
that. Yep.
I always call
for
that
sure.
little circle of trust, fuckers. Little circle of trust.
Yeah. That's
Sorry, I was throwing some
absolutely-
movie stuff in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Meet the Fockers.
Yeah.
Not
Or meet the parents and
then
not
the-
circle back,
not-
but
yeah,
circle of
then-
trust.
yeah.
Yeah, circle
All
of
right.
trust.
Because that was the
Right.
just the start of it.
I had to
yeah.
throw that in there. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because when I've taken some other leadership roles in some organizations, and I've told like my close circle of friends, like, keep me grounded. Don't let me get carried away with the position that I have. Like, keep me humble and if it's appropriate to have. And I appreciate that. Like, to me, it's the tough love, and I want to hear the truth. Like Matt was talking about, don't sugarcoat it. Tell them, if you beat around the bush, I might be so focused on something, I'm not going to catch what you're trying to lay down.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
that's a
be
good
honest
point.
with me, and just
Right.
tell it to me, to my face.
Right. There you go. That's a good one
You
too.
know, just-
Don't talk to me. Communicate.
Right.
And
Well,
there
we
needs to
had
be-
that conversation off camera too, right?
Mhm.
I mean, was it just a couple of us? Well, I don't know if.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but we were talking about that, like rumors and people say things and stuff, and I'm like, if they don't want to talk to me, then I don't care what they say.
Right.
Right.
Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but if they're not going to talk to me about it, it's probably not true.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the thing too, like, that we have to be aware of. Let them talk. I
Yeah.
think that's, back to putting pressure on people. Like, if the messages that I get, if I took every negative message that I get and I read it and I let it sink in,
Right.
we definitely would not be sitting here right now
Right.
doing this. Right.
Well, if we all wanted to be liked, I don't know if we'd be doing this podcast. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you have to get comfortable with too, is not everyone's going to love you, and there definitely will be critics, and it's really about how you handle it. I think, how you respond to that.
And we're ruffling feathers, and I don't know if that's the intention, but I think it's kind of expected with the conversations that we have, because we are frank and we're
Yeah.
trying to be truthful and look outside the box.
And honestly, I think that's just today. I think it doesn't matter what you say. There's just going to be somebody around the corner that has something different to say about it.
Right.
And different to say is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all
That's
on board
true.
for different to say, but how you say it is super, super crucial.
Yeah.
And if they're going to, if they're not going to sit down and have a face-to-face, I have invited dozens and dozens of people to sit down, have a face-to-face with me, whether it's with the camera on or not. And dozens of people have either not replied or said no.
Yeah.
And then I'm out, because if you can't sit down and have a little bit of dialogue back and forth on what they're pushing, they're probably pushing something that doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Or
my
the-
opinion.
Or they don't want the confrontation and somebody's second guessing what they're saying. And I've seen that on social media
For sure.
regarding the show of, a person had said, well, Matt's invited me onto his show. Should I do it or not? And the other person's like, well, why should you? He has a different point of view. Well, justify your point of view.
Yeah. And those are public comments that you're stating.
Oh,
And-
absolutely.
And so that's why I know you're saying it. And I'm saying that it's even worse the ones that are not public
That are
when
not
they
public, yeah.
actually
I'm sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
you
put your
know.
money where your mouth is and defend your stance.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's no just do it.
yeah.
And so many people make up things. Just like some information I just heard at the memorial for law enforcement officers. So many people just make up things because they're offended by something, and there's no history. There's nothing written anywhere. There's no even Wikipedia information, for gosh sakes. They just pulled it out of thin air, and they're offended by something. And now because they're offended, everyone else should follow the status quo with that.
And
And if this-
Wikipedia has just gotten some big pushback on how they post their stuff, and like literally they've had to take things down because it's not been accurate at all, and they haven't checked it and fact
Good,
check it. So I would assume that we're going to start seeing some of those kinds of things more and more come to light.
Good.
Like even if it says it on Wikipedia, it might not even be close to true. It was
Good.
very interesting, and I digress. But
Good.
let's talk about Josh Duggar, how he was arrested, indicted on child pornography charges. Former reality TV star Joshua Duggar. Is that how you say it? Duggar?
Yep.
I
Yeah,
thought it was
I-
the Duggars.
It's
but
Duggar?
It's
Duggar?
Duggar.
It's
All right.
Duggar.
I'm not real great with names, so
Duggar, Duggar, dug a hole. I don't know.
Duggar, yeah,
He needs to have a whole Doug.
has been arrested on federal charges related to the possession of child pornography, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Western District of Arkansas. Duggar allegedly downloaded material that depicted the sexual abuse of children under the age of 12, the U.S. Attorney's Office said in a statement. Duggar allegedly possessed the material in May 2019. Duggar, the oldest son of Michelle and Jim Bob Duggar. Jim Bob. Gotta love it. I forgot. Okay.
It's
Coming back to me.
19 and
I was
counting.
reading this. Yeah. Okay. I was reading this and it just didn't click. Last
kid came out
last
speaking
night.
Spanish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
Ooh.
Anyway, he faces up to 20 years in prison and fines of $250,000 if convicted, the statement said. Duggar was arrested in Arkansas Thursday. According to the statement, he appeared in federal court Friday and pleaded not guilty to both charges. We intend to defend this case aggressively and thoroughly in this country. No one can stop prosecutors from charging a crime, but when you're accused, you can fight back in the courtroom.
I love that statement.
I love that statement too,
Yes.
even though I'm questioning the motives
Right.
on this one. But
I
yes,
love that
absolutely. And that is exactly what Josh intends to do, Duggar's attorney, Justin Gelfand, said. Anyway, yeah, this kind of goes on and on about some of this, but how he was Ashley Madison website, it talks about on there too. So, woo!
Wow.
What infuriates me about this isn't the first time. He was the
This
end
isn't the first time for child
for him.
for him to be
In trouble for
yeah
that.
because of when he was a teenager or whatever.
Yeah,
They
he
also
was
said he was accused.
accused of molesting
Molesting his-
5 girls.
Mhm.
4 of them were his sisters. No, they have a family of 19. So 4 of his sisters he was inappropriate with, and he wasn't charged, and it was essentially just brushed under the rug. So I hope there's some guilt to his family to say, if you wouldn't have brushed this under the rug, he wouldn't have done this to other young children or
Mhm.
other girls. It just, our world is focusing on, in my opinion, the wrong issues. nobody's talking about the sex trafficking. Nobody's talking about the children being abducted and sold.
Because it's at such high levels.
Unbelievably high level. There was a bust in Europe, and they had like 440,000 members across the world that were members of a child porn ring. 440,000 people. And that's one place that was caught. And I've been akin to a situation in Rochester where it was a prominent person and a prominent family, and there was some molestation within that family, and it was brushed under the rug. It's like and I don't know if it's a generational thing. Maybe it happened to them and they just kind of pass it on, but it needs to stop. And I don't know what the answer is, but just hold people accountable for what they're doing. Even if they didn't know it's wrong, educate them that it's wrong and punish them so they'd stop doing it and stop brushing it under the rug.
I think the teenage and the young thing, personally, I don't know what that has to do specifically to this case. And I mean, it might be a pattern, of course, but you know, there's a lot of things that have come out that people have coerced their kids to say things to get other people in trouble, prominent people, and was nothing that was true. So to me, what's that?
Understandable.
Yeah, and to me, so I would look at the child porn thing as he's an adult, clearly, and go after that hardcore.
Absolutely.
And not worry about the other thing, because I think that's a little bit of a distraction to me, right? But what made
my point of bringing that up was there's a pattern.
Maybe, but my point is that a lot can be said that might not be really accurate and true. You know, I mean, if they brushed it on the rug, if they did whatever, it was never pushed and brought to light. So now it's irrelevant in the sense of the law.
Right.
I see where you're coming from.
You know what I mean? Like, so I would just not even allow that. If I wrote this article, I would have never put that in there, is what I'm saying.
But don't you think that's relevant to the situation of
it might be in court, but then
right.
That's the place for the court, you know, and that's only my only point, like that, because that happened and it never
went anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, did he get charged out of it?
No.
No,
when he was younger,
then,
no. It was there was no charges filed. But I think that was also kind of the end of their show.
That's what
once
ended
that
their
started
show.
to come out.
That's what ended their show. Yeah, because whatever company refused to do another contract with them with those
TLC.
charges.
TLC.
Yeah. So in this case, as an adult, I think it should just be focused hard on that specific thing. That's just my opinion. But here I want to comment on this a little bit. It says that Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar posted a statement on their family's website about the very serious accusations Duggar is facing. We appreciate your continued prayers for our family at this time. The accusations brought against Joshua today are very serious. It is our prayer that the truth, no matter what it is, will come to light, and that this will be that this all be resolved in a timely manner. We love Josh and Anna and continue to pray for their family, they said. So clearly they're disconnected. You know, I don't think you'd make a statement specifically like that if you were connected. And so I think that shows that there's a lot of problems there, clearly, currently, right? And that had probably to do with the buildup of the past,
Right.
but also as an adult, the Ashley Madison thing too.
Right.
And is that illegal? I don't know.
Ethically, it's not.
It's a
for
taste.
for that family and the fact that, you know, they're a very God-fearing family and marriage is sacred, yet he's cheating on his wife.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I'm not
it's
saying
a
that
little
it's a
more
good
relevant.
thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
Right.
I'm just saying that in what they're trying to do here is talk about the law and some of that kind of stuff. And I think that's, you know, what some of the focus needs to be on.
So go back to what we said at the top of the show. Did we put them on too much of a pedestal? I mean, they're real people. They're real people. I mean, they are real people. Obviously, if there was some issues with him and his sisters and different things like that, they're real people. Not that that has to happen, but they're real people. And did we pay money to watch a show, or did a company pay money to watch a show and idolize them and put them on a pedestal? Did that have any play into any of that? I think it did.
For sure it did.
But whether you're on TV or not doesn't make it right for you.
No,
to
no,
do
I'm not saying it's
inappropriate
right.
acts with-
I'm not saying it's right. I'm
with
saying they're
minors.
real. I mean, they're real people.
And something that I've talked about before too publicly is the tolerance, right? I mean, what do we tolerate? What do we not tolerate? Do we tolerate the person that continually drives down the road and doesn't put their turn signal on? Well, what is that going to lead to? Probably is going to lead to a crash, because they're just going to move over and no one's going to see them. And, then it's going to cause some really serious problems. So should we overlook a turn signal? Should we throw the book at them if they didn't put their turn signal on? Probably not. But should we educate on it? Maybe.
Right.
And that's kind of my point, is what do we tolerate? What do we not tolerate? And it seems like the tolerance level is way too high on things. And then all of a sudden it becomes a really serious, horrible problem.
Yeah.
Right. And I think some of that comes down to our legal system, and our legal system, I think, needs an overhaul. I mean, how many repeat offenders are there?
No, it doesn't. People in the positions need an overhaul. Our legal system does not.
Sorry. Yes.
They need to do what the law says and not just say, oh, again, back to the tolerance thing. They're just, oh, well, you didn't mean to punch him in the throat 498 times in the last 5 years. Okay, we'll let you back out on the street.
Right.
Now you go and kill your neighbor. Oh, oops.
Well,
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So,
that's my point.
Yes, and I agree with your point. It's the judges that are letting people out over
And the
over
DAs that
and
don't
over again.
prosecute. The
Right.
things that I've been reading in the
They
last
take the easy
week.
way out.
Right.
Yeah, the things I've been reading the last week and stuff, I'm like, this is blowing my. And I'm not going to talk about it now. I might bring it up in a different podcast, but I'm like, the things that DAs have just let people off completely, and then they come back later and literally have murdered people. When I could have sat there and said, "Holy crap, you should have done that, a year ago and thrown them in some sort of jail."
Derek Chauvin, he should have been. They had the opportunity to punish him long before the George Floyd incident.
And that literally goes back to Amy Klobuchar.
Yes,
She let him off.
right.
You know,
So everybody should be held accountable for their actions, including myself. Everybody should be held accountable for their actions. Stop slapping people on
Well,
the
then
hand.
George Floyd would have still been locked up.
that's true. Absolutely. That's absolutely true. He would have still been locked up.
Yeah.
And Chauvin would be a police officer.
And yeah, he wouldn't be a police officer.
There you go.
So anyway, I don't know.
Dirt road.
Yeah. I just think that the law should be upheld according to how it's written right now, and we shouldn't all these interpretations and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things like are super clear. Second Amendment, First Amendment, pretty freaking clear, and they're violated all the time by our
Well, I'll just say
leaders.
real quick, just to chime in on this. I've sort of followed, I love entertainment and all that. So I'm very familiar with the Duggar family. So I recall when their reality show was on there, and I recall when they stopped filming because of this. So I have this thing where I think it's very important to look back and see people's past, every kind of animals, and there's a lot of like questionable things that are done, and then we're like, oh, he's just being a kid, and then next thing you know, worse things are happening, and then if God forbid somebody gets harmed or murdered, and ignoring those kinds of things leads to, as we can see here, worse problems. And I also think it's amazing how much money that one can have and get themselves out of trouble. We know that this family has money. They have connections. And also there's a history there. I've read other articles. It's not going from his sisters to all of a sudden right now he's getting in trouble for child pornography in the Ashley Madison thing. There is other accounts out there of other women saying how he was quite forcible. He's cheated on his wife multiple times. I believe they have 7 or soon to be 7 children in the home. So like with a individual like this, how do you not question this? And my concern and worry is that is that for these children in the future, these are the kind of individuals that we talk about all the time that we don't want on the street. And yet we are finding justifications and excuses for him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to ask the question. I don't want to, but in researching this too, clearly you read more articles and stuff as well. But some of the things that I stumbled across was that sexual preference thing. And they're starting to literally say that that's a sexual preference thing
What
What
are
do
you
you
talking
mean?
for
about?
children.
Being attracted to.
Oh, I know. They're trying to like normalize it. And then and here's the interesting thing
Yes.
about it
Oh my
too is
God.
And this
I don't
is
even know how to
legislatures.
Yeah, I
This
don't even
isn't-
know. They're going government with it too, which is so bothersome about
Yeah.
this. But
Oh yeah.
they are, I've seen shows where people now speaking their truth. They're like, I'm sexually attracted to children, but I don't act on it. And there's all these things that are coming out, and we're supposed to be okay about it. We're supposed to trust that they're not going to go beyond that line and not violate it. But we have to be okay, and we shouldn't be shameful, shame them because they're watching pornography and child pornography in the privacy of their own homes. I have concerns. I have
Absolutely.
concerns when we as humans and then the government gets involved and says it's okay. I'm telling you right now, it is not okay.
No.
It is so far from okay.
Absolutely. And if there wasn't the demand, there wouldn't be a supply for it.
Right.
So
Right.
if people weren't looking at child porn, there would be no reason to make it.
Exactly.
So stop the people from looking. And
this can be
Well,
nipped. I feel
every
that
part
this
of
can
our-
be nipped in the bud. Like we as humans can work to resolve this. We really
Right.
could. We always often talk about drugs and guns and this and that. The issue is because I think it's happening a lot more than we realize out there, and people are okay about it. But you have individuals like us, I imagine, around this table that are not. So we are fighting this fight. And so we need to have more people that are vocal out there. I don't think these children like it. Let's
For
put
sure.
no.
These children do
Oh.
not like this. Okay. So this is not normal. This is not a good thing.
And I don't think it's a bud. I think it's a freaking rainforest. I think this, like Matt had alluded to, this is not a small problem. This is a worldwide issue.
Huge.
It's not nipping in the bud. We need to clear cut that forest. We need to be absolutely
Yes.
done with it. Zero tolerance. If you have obvious child porn on your computer, you're done. Why is our government, why is any human accepting this? It's not right.
I feel like we could just do a whole podcast on this because it just bothers me. You go and violate these children and they become adults and then they do the same thing.
Exactly.
What are you thinking?
Cycle.
Oh my goodness.
It's a
And then they
vicious cycle.
abuse other children, their children. And then we just have mental illness rampant because we're doing terrible things to our children. We're doing terrible things to adults as well. But it's obvious, we've
The
the
adults
sex
can defend
trafficking and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's frustrating.
Extremely.
YouTubers euthanize dog after their child was bit, sparking backlash from fans. Popular parenting YouTubers Nikki, do you say this? Nikki and Dan Philippi?
Philippi? I was going to
Philippi?
go with Philippi.
I don't know.
Loopy.
Philippi?
Philippi.
See, I'm terrible with names. I'm just the way it
Hope
is.
you don't mind, Dan. You're going to be a Philippi today.
Yeah, Philippi. Facing criticism from fans and followers after sharing that they had euthanized their 9-year-old bull terrier, Bowser. The pair, who live in Nashville, said in an emotional YouTube video shared on May 3rd that there had been multiple instances over the years where they would have been justified in putting the dog down. But the final straw came after he bit their young son, Logan, in an incident that Dan called defensive. Dan and Nikki Philippi, sorry guys, did not respond to multiple requests for comment from Today. It happened in a way that almost doesn't matter because the end result was the same. But in the spirit of telling the story, it wasn't like Bowser attacked Logan. Logan tried to take food from him. Nikki explained in the video. While Logan wasn't seriously hurt, he was left with a mark on his face from Bowser's teeth. Dan said in an earlier incident, Logan had also hurt the dog's ear, leaving it swollen for nearly a month. That incident allegedly left Bowser with a scar. I don't know. There's a lot to this article. I think let's comment on it. And yeah.
So obviously the dog was a repeat offender, but maybe it wasn't just the dog's fault. I mean, we have a 4.5-year-old and we keep an the biting. I mean, the dog seems like it was a little bit justified. Now, were they justified in putting him down? Could they have rehomed him? So it's maybe a house without children. Obviously, there was an issue between the child and the dog.
Well, the Humane Society said that it's not an option due to his long history with the family. All the instances where Bowser has shown aggression. So that wasn't an option.
I'd like to correct that and say that Nikki and Dan said that they had contacted the Humane Society and found out that it wouldn't be possible to rehome Bowser. But if you look at the article, the Humane Society says that they have no record of being so.
The one
more.
Right, and I was going to keep reading that too. No, that's okay. But no, you're right. And they said that the Nashville Humane Society Association said that they didn't have any records of it.
It doesn't mean they didn't Google it and say, what do you do with your dog that has a behavior problem? I mean, they're kind of taking that out of context a little bit. But
don't use the Humane Society as a scapegoat. Okay, so you don't go through the Humane Society, but put it out to your friends. Hey, we need to rehome our dog. We can't have it around our child.
It's a dog.
Having issues.
I mean, it's a dog.
Find another home on your own. Don't.
It's a dog. Look at.
So here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say to that. Having a little puppy and another dog, and I've had animals all my life. I would not put up with it in the first case. If it happened once, I would have, in a heartbeat, rehomed the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
It would not have been a question.
Right.
That's what should have happened.
Right.
In my opinion. Secondly, I'll say I know people personally who have lost children because of a dog attack. I know people personally who have had serious injuries to their children because of a dog attack.
Right.
I would have personally taken care of it immediately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys know I love animals, but that's something that we, in the first place, should never, ever tolerate. They should be separated from the kids at once.
Amen.
And what I think about this article too is it's again, it could be an environment situation. I mean, sometimes animals don't do well with children. So there's there's jealousy issues that they had another small dog. Also, if I continued and I read more, and they have the owners themselves, there's video of them that they filmed themselves of teasing the dog with the little dog. They would take their little dog and they would put it up right in front of Bowser's face and they'd bark and they'd go back and they just thought it was hilarious. So to me, I thought, okay, so you're saying this and you're coming out very compassionate. This is what we had to do. But then there's evidence to show that you sort of got your dog going. You instigated it. And then the other issue that I have with this article is that they thought it was super appropriate to go on YouTube and talk about it. I mean, knowing that they were going to get backlash, they knew that they were going to get, not all were going to favor what they did. I will tell you right now, I think it's in poor taste. To go,
I agree. And here's
it brought viewers.
Exactly.
We're talking about it right now.
We're talking about it
right now. And here's what, and I don't want to go on and on with this story because I think that gives it too much merit, quite honestly. I think it needs to be talked about. That's not my point. But I think if we keep doing it, here's what I want to say. I get frustrated with these YouTubers and these quote unquote influencers and all this other garbage. They are doing this. They disabled their comments. I don't know if anybody looked at that. They disabled all of their comments. No one can comment on any of their stuff right now. And all these things. So they are after the numbers. They are after the money. That's exactly what they're after. And that's what I mean about putting the pressure on the earlier story about putting pressure on these athletes and these people. These people are not influencers. I watch some of their videos. It's just being people. They're not really going out and in my opinion, influencing anything. They're after the numbers. They're after the look what we did, stuff. And can they do that? Absolutely. That's their right. But to call them an influencer or whatever, this article specifically doesn't call them an influencer, just YouTubers, but other articles did that I read. And actually, did it say, maybe it did say parent influencers or something?
I have to tell you, when I first caught the headline of this article, I immediately assumed that they probably videoed live putting the dog down just because of how everybody was irate and everything. That's what I assumed. And I thought, oh my gosh, why would they do that? And then after reading the article, I'm like, what is everybody all up in arms about? The dog obviously had a behavior problem.
Here's what I want to say. They clearly talk about how there was issues with the dog and the kid, right? They talk about that. Nikki and Dan, if we ever meet, I'll tell you this to your face. You are absolutely wrong from continuing to have the dog and the kid in the same room, period. The dog, it's not the dog's fault, right? They had signs. The dog didn't just lose its mind and attack the kid.
Right. The signs were there.
This is Nikki and Dan's problem, fault.
Yeah, not the dog. But
It's
the
not the
dog's the
dog.
one that suffered. And the little child is the one that suffered.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they should, and here's the thing, in their YouTube is literally has taken down videos of mine discussing issues with government officials, discussing issues with doctors. They have literally taken down my videos because they didn't like what we were discussing, and their videos are up. Guess what? YouTube doesn't make any money on a little guy like me.
Right.
Yeah.
This is hypocritical across the board. And I'm going to end with that. You guys can weigh in and then we'll close the show.
The one thing that I do want to say or add to this is I was bit by a dog when I was 14 or 15, and it wasn't my fault, but it sure as heck wasn't the dog's fault. It was, the situation was the dog, where we were at, the dog was basically felt, what we assume is the dog felt enclosed with a bunch of young boys, 14, 15, we were in Boy Scouts, and I was in the way of the dog's exit. I just happened to be the kid in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And the dog lunged, he bit me in the face, and he got out of there. That's all the dog wanted to do. It was not the dog's fault. I believe that dog was put down because it was in a bad situation and it bit somebody. I don't hold it against the dog. I don't hold it against anybody. It's just a bad situation. And this is the same thing. That dog is the one that suffered. That little child is the one that suffered. But who's at fault? And like Matt said, it's the parents' fault in this situation.
Right.
And I was bit by a dog, and it was my fault completely because the dog was a guard dog, and I was at a friend's house, and I tried to get from the bedroom to the bathroom. I was 12 or 13 or whatever it was. And, I wasn't fast enough. I made the mistake of not letting them put the dog away, and I opened the door and was going to just run to the bathroom and run back. Right. And well, guess what? I didn't look to see if the dog was there initially. And I opened the door and I tried to make it, and I didn't. Got me in the back. I have a scar from it. Not a bad one, but and so I get it. Like, I mean, this kind of stuff happens, but I was fully aware of that dog was specifically there to do a job, and I was not his friend. Right. And I knew that. And I mean, I was friends with him for a long time. And so that was known. I put myself in that harm's way. I took a calculated risk.
And you
right?
lost.
And I lost.
Yeah.
They-
How old were you, Matt?
No one was
How old were you?
like 12 or 13, I
Okay.
think. And so, you know, and it wasn't bad. I don't even know if I told my parents it wasn't that bad, you know, and you know, the dog wasn't in trouble for it or anything. But when you have a situation like this, it is 100% Dan and Nikki's fault for this. I mean, I'm sorry. That is really how I think this went down, clearly off of their own words.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to weigh in anymore about it. So sorry.
No.
Who wants to wrap up?
Hammer that like button.
We ready?
Sure. Yeah.
Are we ready? All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I am Matt Logan. You can find me at Matt Logan Speaks everywhere. Speaks is not my last name. It is just, you know, because there are other Matt Logans out there. I've had some messages this last week. So Speaks is not my last name. Logan is. Find me everywhere. Mine's Parlor. Parlor, yes, is up still and back again, right? So hammer that like button. Check out the video. Hammer the share button. Go ahead and hammer out a comment to us. Go ahead and hammer the like button. Go ahead and hammer the subscription button. Go ahead and hammer the notification bells, because you know what? That's the best way you can support us. We appreciate it.